you've decided to give primitive rug hooking a try. So I'm going to demonstrate a couple primitive rug hooking stitches here. I have my pattern right now drawn with Sharpie marker on monk's cloth. Monk's cloth is a cotton-based grid foundation fabric that's appropriate for this style of rug hooking. And basically I have it stretched right now in a quilting hoop that's a 1 inch wide, nice and strong quilting hoop, and it's able to accommodate the girth of my rug hooking as I move on. So I have it stretched, basically just sandwiched in between the two pieces, and every once in a while you want to give this pattern, the excess fabric on this pattern, a nice tug to kind of retain that tightness. We want it what's called drum tight, so you just give it a little pat. It's like a drum. So you can stretch out that foundation fabric just to make it easier for yourself. You might find in this stretchy monk's cloth that some of the lines stretch out of shape. They stretch out of their square. It's okay. Just hook right on the stretched line, the drawn line there, and when you unstretch this from the hoop, it'll spring back to its square or rectangular shape. So that's just one note about using this monk's cloth in a hoop like that. It is quite stretchy. So I can start and stop anywhere I want on here. So let me show you first my hook. So my hook, I use a Joan Moshimer maple short-handled hook, and I hold it just like a pencil in my dominant hand. So I am a lefty, so I hold it in my left hand like that. Now, rug hooking is a two-handed process, so I'll have one hand working on the top and one working on the bottom. Let me give you a little note here about our wool. So this is the wool that I typically use. It's a medium weight wool. It does have a slight texture to it. It's also a 1/4 inch wide, which in the rug hooking world, it's called a number 8 cut. So when you're talking about primitive rug hooking, you're talking about a number 6 cut, which is a little smaller than this, than an 8, then a 10, and they just get bigger from there. So it's a wide cut wool that we're using today. So back to my hook. Here I am, have it comfortably held in my hand, and this hook always stays on the top side. So I'm working, I'm pulling my loops up from the bottom, and I'm gonna show you kind of how this works underneath, even though I'm not going to show you that yet. So basically what happens is the hook gets poked down through one of the holes of the monk's cloth. My hand underneath meets the hook. I wrap my wool strip around the shaft of the hook, and I let the little hooky part grab the edge of the wool, and that's how I'm then pulling it up. Okay, so let's show you that in action. So basically my hand with the wool is going to go underneath. Okay, I'm going to actually work over here on a straighter line to show you. And I like to hold this hoop, I kind of hold it down with my arm and stabilize it. My hand underneath goes over here. So it's easiest for me to work kind of in the area that's further away because I'm using my arm to stabilize that. But I can go in anywhere that I want. You can see here's some loops that I did over here, but I don't have to continue that. I'm going to poke in over here. So my hook goes in, just poke it through one of the holes. Now, this is an important step. You really want to widen that hole nice and wide for yourself. It's going to make it so much easier to pull up your really thick wool strip. Now this is when I'm placing the wool strip around the shaft of the hook. I'm letting the hook catch it, and I'm bringing it up, then pulling it back down. The first thing you do is leave yourself a tail, about an inch or so, but it's just got to be as high as your wool loops are going to be. An inch is good to start with. Now I'm not going in every single hole. This wool is just too thick, and if I overpacked my stitches by going in every hole, my end result would come out really warped. It would hurt my hand because there would just be too much fabric being woven through. So the rule of thumb with this size thickness of wool is to go in about every second or every third hole. So I'm going to go about there again. I'm stretching that hole out for myself. I'm going to, my hand underneath, placing the wool on that hook, and my hook's bringing it up. So that's a good loop. This is about a 1/4 inch high. So you want your pile, the rule of thumb in rug hooking is you want your pile to be as high as the width of your wool. okay? The higher you bring your pile, the further away you can make your stitches because the high pile covers more area. So now I'm not necessarily counting, I'm just going in kind of by sight and feel. Pull that one up a little bit. I'm just making sure that I'm filling in the monk's cloth so you can't see it when you're looking directly down on it. But I'm also, by feel, I'm making sure that I'm not putting my stitches in too tight. Okay, do a couple more here. Another thing you might notice is I'm holding my hook at quite an angle. So, you know, I'm almost parallel to the surface of my pattern here. I'm holding it quite angled. I'm moving in a line that's going kind of up here. I'm holding my hook perpendicular to the line I'm moving, okay? So my hook is horizontal while I'm moving in a line that's somewhat vertical, at least probably how you're viewing it, okay? So that's pretty good for my demo. I'm gonna bring my other tail up. All your tails come up to the surface of the pattern there. So grab my scissors, and these tails, they just get trimmed down. So these tails end up being about the same height as all of your loops, which we've already established is about a 1/4 inch high. So now if we look at my loops from the side, it's a really good thing to do when you're first starting out, is check out your loops from the side. You can see that they're not that close together, at least at the bottom. They're just touching at the tops. But the bottom, they actually have quite a bit of space. And that's, again, just to emphasize how you shouldn't overpack your wool, because you'll just be doing way too much work. You have to kind of trust that the wool loops are gonna fluff out against each other and really fill in a lot of space. So that's one thing that I think beginners have a hard time, is trusting the wool. And really it just, again, the judgment of how packed you should be making your stitches, it really comes with practice. Same thing about establishing the height of your loops too. You know, you're trying to get them as even as you can, but it just takes practice. But, you know, after a couple hours of practice, you should be getting it down, and it should be quite easy for you to fill in your pattern and finish your rug. So thanks so much. If you have any questions, feel free to email me. I'm Haley from Loop by Loop Studio. My website is loopbyloopstudio.com.